eClub of Silicon Valley, and to everybody watching this recording online. My name is John Hewko. I'm the General Secretary of Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation, based here in Evanston, Illinois. And as the General Secretary of Rotary, I oversee our staff of over 500 people here in Evanston. But we also have 7 international offices. We have about 200 employees there as well. And so, as the General Secretary, I oversee not only the staff, but our 35,000 Rotary clubs around the world in over 200 countries and geographic areas.
It is a pleasure to have you with us. And may I call you John?
Absolutely.
John, an honor. I'm especially excited for you to be able to agree, not just our members, but so many others who will hopefully see this recording, because we believe it's a great time to be in Rotary. And so the opportunity to have the General Secretary of Rotary International speak to us is something very important. So as a way of saying hello, I want to tell all of our members that the opportunity to have John in is not merely a chance to talk about Rotary. That John is a person of incredible background. He's had work that he has done with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which has focused on innovation as we focus on innovation, innovation in service. He has spent years in different countries and will tell us a little bit about his international experience, I hope. And with that, I want to allow John to go ahead and start his presentation, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A before finishing up. John, it's all yours.
All right, well, thanks again. Again, delighted to be with you, and I understand also we've got some Rotarians on the line participating from the eClub in Hawaii and also from LA5. So welcome to one and all. Well, you know, the Silicon Valley Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley is just over a year old. And I thought perhaps you'd like to hear a little bit about my Rotary story and how I see Rotary from our Evanston headquarters, which again is the home of our global network that brings together volunteer leaders to exchange ideas and take action to address some of the world's most pressing humanitarian challenges. So how did I join the Rotary family? And you know, for me, I would have never have known the incredible privilege of being General Secretary if it weren't for one personally transformative act of connecting for good. You know, 5 years ago, I was a visiting fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for Peace in Washington and conducting research on international development issues. And I was about ready to publish a paper on the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which was the government agency that I had been working for previously. And it was a new agency that President Bush had established back in 2004 to deliver U.S. foreign assistance in a new and innovative way. And again, it's not every day that you get have the good fortune of being able to stand up a federal agency, but it was a great concept in terms of delivering aid in a new way, and I had a very neat job. I was the chief U.S. negotiator for the agency, negotiating with our country partners, negotiating the various foreign assistance agreements that we had. And again, the basic premise around MCC was to deliver assistance to those countries that were doing the right thing in terms of policies, that were democratic, that were investing in health and education, and had sound economic policies, and we had a very objective method using non-U.S. government indicators to score our potential country partners. And it was also based on the concept that once a country was chosen as eligible for MCC funding, the countries got to choose what we funded rather than us telling them what we think they want. And then there was a very strong accountability and a performance metric in the assistance that we gave those countries. So it was a very very cool 4.5 years, almost more than 5 years actually, that I had. And so while I was at Carnegie, writing and reflecting on international development issues, out of the blue, I get a letter from my dad. He's a Rotarian in Michigan. It's north of Detroit. He's been a Rotarian for over 30 years, and he's also a very avid reader of the Rotarian magazine. So I opened the letter and I see from my dad a letter that he'd written. He'd torn out a page from the Rotarian magazine where there was an advertisement that Rotary was looking for a new general secretary, and he sort of wrote across. So he ripped out the page and wrote across the top, John, you half English, half Ukrainian. He goes, John, you may want to check this out. Like, it seems like you have the qualifications for this. And So I saw that Korn Ferry, the headhunting firm, search firm, was handling the search. I called one of my contacts there in the D.C. office, and I said, do you know anything about this? And he said, oh yeah, our office is running the search, and you'd be an ideal candidate. And so, and from there, it was all uphill or downhill, depending on how you want to say it. But I still keep that letter framed in my office in Evanston, and I think there are really 3 lessons that I learned just from that experience. And the first is always make sure you listen to your dad. They generally tell you the right thing. The second is that very, very good things happen when you read the Rotarian magazine. And the third is that I think in this anecdote, the serendipity of how all this came about for me personally, in many ways, I think embodies a central quality of Rotary membership, and that is mainly connecting for good. And it shows that within the Rotary family, you really are only 1 degree of separation away from the next great opportunity. And so when I say next great opportunity, I mean really the chance to make an impact and join others to solve tough problems and to take action. Because, in many ways, I think we can call Rotary the original social network, which connects people of every ethnicity and culture, again, to address the world's toughest humanitarian challenges. When Mark Zuckerberg was still a baby, we decided to take on the challenge of polio eradication. I mean, well before the idea of Facebook ever came up. And what's great about Rotary is that our members identify the problems affecting their communities, then they strategize together to find the best course of action. No project is too great, I think, or too small for us, and we embrace new challenges every day, from global polio eradication to the pro bono mentoring of social and environmental opportunities in Silicon Valley, which I understand is done by members of your very own club. And we've been doing this for over 100 years, and clearly we have no intention of stopping. So in some ways, we can say that Rotary is on the cutting edge of international development, and soon will ensure that and really truly make history and leave a legacy for really as long as humans inhabit the earth, a legacy of polio-free world. Only the 2nd disease in history to be eradicated. Now, I'd like to tell you more about why I'm excited about our polio effort a little bit later in my comments. But now, again, for those of you who are watching this on the West Coast, I want to talk a bit more about Rotary in your own backyard. In some ways, Rotary was, in fact, in many ways, Rotary was defined on the West Coast. It may have been started in Chicago in 1905, but 5 of the first 10 clubs were formed in your part of the country. And today, clubs such as yours are continuing this great tradition of innovation, and in my opinion, are clearly leading the way by example. And again, LA5 and eClub of Hawaii, as well as Silicon Valley eClub, again, perfect examples of clubs that are really making a difference in your communities. And so, as I said, I think the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley is blazing a trail for innovation, for club flexibility and membership growth. Engaging a broader demographic in North America, because in my view, innovation is really a key word for your part of the world. With the largest regional percentage share of total employees in innovation industries. In the lexicon of Silicon Valley, we could call the Rotary Foundation in some ways a social impact incubator, transforming the lives of millions through bold initiatives, entrepreneurial activities, and creative problem solving. In fact, I think there's probably a strong case for saying that Rotary has absorbed many of the practices that define the lean startup methodology, embracing risk, experimentation, scaling up ideas that work. But I think Rotary is also unique in the field of development and philanthropy. As our success in eradicating polio shows, we are in some ways built to navigate the tricky intersection between political engagement, volunteerism, and social impact. And in some ways, I think that Rotary has such a strong presence on the West Coast and in Hawaii, for example, because of this meeting of commerce and cause is something that's at the heart of our identity, and I think it really resonates in your part of the world. Now, as members of Rotary, you know that we retain an edge through our greatest asset, and that is our members, each and every one of you. And as eClub members, you more than perhaps any Rotarians are acutely aware of technology's potential. It has both, potential both to sustain Rotary's relevance by keeping our network accessible to all, and also has the potential to magnify our impact by connecting for good. So, I guess the question is why do we connect at Rotary? And when we connect through Rotary, it seems to me we act in the knowledge that we can't take on the world's challenges alone. If you, for example, look at the issue of polio, even Bill Gates, who with his resources could easily fund the entire polio eradication effort, even someone with those kinds of resources has realized that to be successful in this effort, he needed to partner or join the partnership, join the global polio eradication initiative, because it's all about partnering, and it's all about trying to have 1 + 1 equal 3. And again, that's why eClubs are so important, because we want to address issues like, for example, the 60 million people displaced by conflict and violence, 896 million still living in extreme poverty, more than 3 million dying of preventable diseases each year, and issues like profound social instability. We know we can't solve these problems alone. And so I think eClubs can facilitate the smart partnerships required to amplify the impact of all of our 6 areas of focus, from addressing the underlying causes of poverty to providing education and fostering economic development. I think eClubs can do this in 2 ways. I think first by using technology as a tool for connectivity. The eClub model really does enable club meetings which are really as effective as those conducted in person, but you do so at very, very low cost. And second, I think technology is an important part of the solution to the difficult challenges that we're taking on as Rotary members. For example, as part of our polio eradication efforts in Pakistan, again, just 2 countries now in the world, Afghanistan and Pakistan, where the wild polio virus has never been stopped. So in Pakistan, what we're doing is working hard to replace traditional written paper reporting of polio and maternal and newborn health data from the field. We're replacing it with cell phone reporting. And so the use of cell phones has facilitated communications with and payments to vaccinators, especially in remote communities. We're using GPS very effectively to monitor vaccination teams, and most importantly, finding the missed communities, because the key to polio vaccination is getting to each and every child, and very often there are communities that we miss, that we're not aware of, and so using satellite technology, GPS, we're able to use this technology to find these communities, and that enhances immunization coverage. And this has, of course, been a huge improvement from the hand-drawn maps that were previously used in terms of the house-to-house campaigns. And so, while Rotary's future future of connecting for good will play out prominently online, I think we mustn't forget that we use technology as a tool for living out our principle of service above self. Now, with respect to service above self, I think it's in some ways defined by Rotary's human intelligence, our boots on the ground, and the ethics by which we conduct ourselves. And I think these attributes are more important and more vital than ever if we're going to achieve our highest principles and continue our record of sustainable humanitarian impact. And I think that's where Rotary's volunteers, whether it's here in the States or in Nigeria or India, but particularly in Pakistan and Afghanistan, as I said, the last 2 countries where the wild polio virus has never been stopped, that's where we make an impact that is unparalleled. And to do this, Rotary works best when we combine our international presence with an internationalist perspective. And again, Rotary's work in spearheading the global polio eradication is a case in point, and our success there is really helping to shape the post-2015 development agenda. So very often we get the question, why end polio? What are the benefits to the world for ending polio? And as obvious as the answer may be, very often it doesn't hurt to repeat it. And again, polio eradication is Rotary's #1 priority. What I find extraordinary about this effort is that in 1985, it was Rotary International, a nonprofit, not a government agency, not a multilateral institution, that had really the audacity, to say we're going to eradicate a disease from the face of the earth. And again, only smallpox is the only other disease that's been eradicated. We had 125,000, 125 countries, hundreds of thousands of cases a year back in 85. And again, we're now down to just 2, Afghanistan and Pakistan, where the disease has never been stopped, and I think we've had only 5 cases to date. So we truly are this close to eradicating polio, and we very much hope that we can have the last polio case with any luck this year. And so by the time that the world is certified as polio-free, Rotary's contributions to the effort will have exceeded $1.9 billion, almost $2 billion. And I think even greater significance is our huge volunteer army, which is helping at the local level by providing, support at clinics, or mobilizing their communities for immunization or polio eradication activities. In fact, more than 1 million Rotarians worldwide have contributed toward the success of the polio eradic effort to date. And as you can see on the screen, if we don't get the job done, then we could have a huge, significant rebound of polio over the next 40 years. Now, in many ways, I think Rotary has excelled as part of the polio eradication initiative for 4 main reasons. Some of which I alluded to earlier in my comments. But I think the first one is that it was a cause back in 1985 that was very relevant to all of our members. In other words, polio, as I mentioned, was endemic in 125 countries when we started. And so this wasn't some far-off exotic disease that a limited part of the world was suffering, but it was something that every Rotarian, or almost every Rotarian in the world, could identify with, because again, the disease was present in 125 countries. Secondly, polio eradication due to the oral polio vaccine. Any of us can be polio vaccinators. It's just putting 2 drops of polio vaccine in a child's mouth. And to the extent that any of you have not had yet had an opportunity to participate in a National Immunization Day, I would urge you, in a country where they're carrying out the polio vaccination campaigns, I would urge you to do it, because it leaves a profound impact on you with those 2 small drops to be able to fundamentally change a child's life forever. And so, because of the oral vaccine, Rotarians were able to participate in the effort in a way that went beyond simply check writing or attending a fundraising event. And once you do that, once you participate hands-on, your emotional connection to the cause becomes much greater. I think the third reason was that you could measure results. It was very clear whether we were eradicating polio or not. We either had cases or we didn't. And so our members had a very concrete and achievable challenge with clear metrics for success. And finally, to echo what I had said earlier, we couldn't do it alone. And when we decided to do this back in '85, we knew we couldn't do it alone. And so we joined with CDC and the World Health Organization and UNICEF to create the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we were more recently been joined by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they themselves, as I said, realized that to get the job done, partnership was absolutely critical. So again, those are sort of the four reasons which I think were critical to keeping Rotary at it for the last 30-some years. Crossing the finish line, and again, just to give you one personal example of hands-on participation in this effort, here, well, actually, it's my wife, is completing the 104-mile Tour de Tucson as part of our record-breaking effort in the annual Miles to End Polio bike ride. I'm a very avid cyclist, and at the convention in Bangkok several years ago, 4 years ago, the group of Rotarians from Tucson approached me and asked if I could give them a hand in trying to raise money for polio, and that they were using the Tour de Tucson as their principal fundraising vehicle, and were, raising $5,000–10,000 a year. A very nice effort. But if I could join them as an avid cyclist, see if we can increase that funding even more. And so first year I think we raised about $250,000. The next year even more, and the next year even more, and this year we raised about over $4.5 million for the ride. 100 Rotarians participated. It's part of a larger ride. About 9,000 people participate in this ride. You can do 104 miles, 75, 50, 25, different lengths. But it's one of the premier bike rides in the country that are used by organizations to raise money. And so this year we raised over $4.5 million, which, when multiplied by the Gates match, because we're getting a 2-to-1 match from the Gates Foundation for money that we raised for polio, it was more than $14 million that this event now raised. And we all do it. We do it because we want to leave a gift to the world, and we also want to help with, in terms of the long-term financial savings. I estimated that if we're able to rid the world of polio, we might reap up to an additional $50 billion in reduced healthcare costs around the world over the next 20 years. And if we succeed, again, we'll have gifted the world not only first of all, a blueprint for disease eradication on a scale that's never been seen before. And so the success of polio will breed success in other global health interventions. But again, if we don't get across the finish line, we could easily see polio resurge. And so we really need to keep up our determined actions to end polio. And all of you have a vital role to play. We need to continue fundraising. We need to continue to advocate with governments to support polio eradication efforts. And so I thank you for your support to date, and it'd be great to get the eClub movement to think about even additional ways that we might be able to effectively raise money for this great endeavor. So with that, I'll stop my I'll pause and be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have.
Perfect. It is such a good thing to be able to share kind of a global perspective on the things that are happening across Rotary. When you think about eClubs, a lot of people who are coming into eClubs are, of course, new Rotarians. And I love that you called this the original social network, because however technically people might be connecting, they're connecting because they care about something, whether it's, we all graduated from high school at the same time, or we're all concerned about, this particular issue, or we just like to read together, whatever it might be that connects a set of people. There's going to be that thing beyond the means by which they connect that is important to them. For us, service, by and large. You have seen all kinds of things over the last few years of being the General Secretary that I'm sure have been quite moving to you. Is there something that you have seen that you can kind of tell, especially our new Rotarians, about that help them understand the power of Rotary?
Well, I mentioned, obviously I spent a lot of time talking about polio eradication, and I urged those Rotarians who haven't had a chance to go on an ID to go on one. And I remember the first one I went on in Mumbai, and the thought of being in this dusty, small room, no facilities, and these mothers bringing their children in to be vaccinated because they knew that those 2 drops would prevent a disease that for them was terrible, and then giving those 2 drops to the child. And for me, it's sort of like, Neil Armstrong, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And here I was thinking, 2 small drops of polio vaccine to a child, a lifetime of a polio-free existence. And so for me, that was, in particular, a very, very moving scene. But, what's great about Rotary is that wherever I travel, wherever I see Rotarians in action, wherever I see the projects that they're doing, you realize, one, the passion and energy and dedication that Rotarians really have for their fellow human being. I mean, it's palpable, it's genuine. It's an extraordinary culture and ethos that we've been able to build in our organization to genuinely want to do good in the world. And so whether you're talking Rotarians from a big city or a small town, I'm just inspired by their desire to do good, not only the local breadth of good that Rotary does. It's not just maternal child health. It's not just literacy. It's not just polio. It's the student exchange programs that we run. It's all the youth programs, RILA, Rotaract, Interact. The bridges we're connecting by bringing people both physically together and electronically. That's what I find absolutely incredible. I like to very often say that there's not one politician in the world that doesn't have a Rotarian as a constituent. I mean, our platform and our presence is truly extraordinary. I mean, I think there's almost no other organization on earth like it.
Excellent. I want to make sure that each of our people participating who has a question gets the chance to ask it. I'll start with our president-elect, Mitty. So, Mitty, if you have a comment or question that you want to pass along to General Secretary Hewko, that would be wonderful to hear from you on that. And then following Mitty, we'll go with anyone who waves to be part of it. Chris, you may have something, so from a Canadian perspective for us. But Mitty, go ahead and jump in.
All right, John, really quick, because you didn't get this a little bit earlier, this is how we digitally applaud. Just so you get something. But John, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about actually the room you're in. There's so much, I think, Rotary history behind you that we've been kind of looking at. I was wondering if you can kind of just tell us a little bit more about what's going on.
Sure. Good, Mitty. Good to see you. Mitty and I just saw Mitty earlier over the weekend in San Jose. So it's great to be able to connect with you. Yeah, what we've got here. This is I'm actually in my office, and I can do a little bit of a 360 here for you. This is the mess I have. That's my office, and we own our building in Evanston, 18-story building. And you can see out my window here. We use about half of the. You can see some of the stuff that's on the back wall there. And then there's the two folks who are helping me. Hi, guys. And then some of the other things that some of the other. You can see the two posters from the Tour de Tucson the last 2 years, etc. And so we own our building. We use about half of it, and the other half we rent out. And so it's really become the premier office building on the North Shore, and with the money we make from the rentals, we cover the operations of Rotary. It's a fantastic building. In fact, I really would urge Rotarians from around the world to come visit us. We have visitors that come very, very often. Here on the 18th floor, we have the President's office, we have the boardroom where the Rotary International Board and the Foundation trustees meet. On the next floor, on the 17th floor, we have a beautiful gallery honoring all of our Arch Clump Society members. Those are Rotarians who have donated, and non-Rotarians who have donated considerable funds to our great foundation. We have a very nice conference center on the ground floor, great auditorium, and so please come and visit us. And when you come, make it part of the overall historical tour of Rotary. Come visit one Rotary Center, then go to Chicago 1 for a makeup lunch, and then you can visit the Paul Harris home on the south side of Chicago. It's the home where Paul lived and where many of the early meetings of Rotary took place. It's in many ways the Mount Vernon of Rotary, and the Chicago area Rotarians have purchased that home and are now refurbishing it to the way it was when Paul died in 1947. And he's buried about a mile from the home, and so you can go visit the Paul Harris gravesite. The Chicago Rotarians have done a great job in maintaining his gravesite. In fact, what's interesting, he's buried about 100 meters, 100 yards from the founder of Alliance, and so even in death, they're competing with each other. Although I always like Paul's gravesite much better. They've done a very nice job of preserving it. So please come. Bring groups of Rotarians. Come yourselves. We can organize a tour, you briefing sessions, etc. And so some of the stuff you see on the back wall is just memorabilia, things that I've collected through my various Rotary travels.
Very cool.
Awesome. John, are you participating in the El Tour de Tucson this year?
I am, and you know, this last year I wanted to break 5 hours, and you know, training in Chicago in September, October, November for a November ride is not easy. So a lot of boring indoor riding, but I did break. I got it break 5 hours. I was at 4 hours 55 minutes, and you know, always want to do better. And so I'll definitely be participating next year if I'm physically able to. And you know, we've set the bar very high. We raised a lot of money last year, and hopefully break it again next year. But it's turned into a great event. And what's also interesting, by the way, is you can do it virtually. We had on the day of the ride, we had over 300 Rotarians riding virtually on stationary bikes around the world. Yeah, we had a big contingent in Australia, big contingent in Italy, big contingent in Kenya. And then around El Tour, other Rotarians around the world are organizing fundraising rides in their hometowns and in their regions. So we may not actually be able to come to Tucson, but still cycle and raise money for polio.
That's awesome. I'm going to proclaim here on recorded meeting Google Hangouts that I will join you this November for first time ever, and I will ride with you. Yeah.
And again, you can do we have the night before the ride. There's a nice dinner for all the Rotarians who are riding. You can do 104. A lot of people do 75. A lot do the 50-mile one. You can do 25. There's really distances for all skill levels and fitness levels. So please don't be shy, and many look forward to seeing you there.
See you there.
Wonderful. Chris in Canada.
John, I noticed on your tour around your office on one wall, did I see a flag from the Masters golf tournament there, or is that something else?
Yes, that was. I was at the Masters.
As a broadcast producer at CBS for the Masters, you'd be glad to know that over half the people in the broadcast trucks are Rotarians.
Oh, terrific.
So if you're there again, come back to Broadcast 1, which is the first HD truck, and we'll be happy to make sure that you get proper introduction and so on. My question really is about polio plus, about polio itself, polio eradication. It took X amount of dollars to get to 98 or 99.5%, whatever it is. Why is it taking so much money to get that last 1%, 0.5%, whatever it is?
That's a really great question. I think part of the polio eradication is a two-step process. You have the transmission of the wild virus everywhere, and then you need to continue vaccinating and continue detailed surveillance efforts for 3-4 years afterwards to ensure that there is no more polio either circulating in the sewage. We have certified polio as polio-free, and so just because we're down to so few cases doesn't mean that we don't need to stop the massive worldwide effort, continuous effort that's required to keep the world safe from polio. And so even if once we stop that last case, you still have 3-4 years of continued vaccination, although we're going to be switching from the oral vaccine to the injectable. There's a gradual transition over to that. But yeah, it's still a monumental effort, and I'm sure the last few cases of smallpox, were proportionally pretty expensive. But I think the broader question is that we can't afford to stop, because if we stop,
you undo all the good, yeah.
Incredible investment that we've got. Plus, we're so close. Why would you not just do whatever it takes to get across the finish line? Because the long-term benefits to humanity way outweigh the relatively significant amounts that are still needed to get those last few cases nailed and to get us to certification. So, but it's a very good question. Hello, can you guys hear me?
It was a moment away, but you're back in, no problem.
Am I back here? Where in the process? Where in the answer did it get cut off? At the end?
You said that's a very good. Actually, you put your explanation together about the last elements and the encouragement. Why shouldn't we finish? And then finished with that's a very good question.
So thank you. It answered my question.
Perfect. Remain and Sviatko and Lane, if any of you have a question, we are happy to jump to you as well. We probably have time for one, maybe two more.
You know, for me, it would be very helpful because I'm a big fan of the eClubs, and I'm a big fan of using technology, and I'm a big fan of providing products, club experiences that are relevant and of a value proposition to obviously all demographics that we're targeting as a potential move, but particularly to the younger demographic. And so, I would really appreciate hearing feedback from the eClubs and from you as to what we could be doing to help support your efforts, and what we could be doing to make your experiences more interesting. And if there's any lessons learned, any things that you're doing that are resulting in increased membership, more vibrant clubs, that are resulting in a better use of technology to make the Rotary experience a better one for our members, please let me know about it, because those great examples I'd like to be able to show to the Rotary world as examples of some new and innovative and cutting-edge ways to again improve our membership experience and to grow our members.
Sounds good. I'm going to let Lane speak to that first. Lane, wonderful to have you joining us from the Rotary eClub of Hawaii, and then I'll speak to it, and then we'll wind down the recording.
You know, like, for us down here, it's always about the value and why should someone join Rotary, right? The value add for a young professional that is the lowest person on the totem pole trying to work their way up in life. So we try to give them a good value of the benefits that we all know, that we all love Rotary, and I think that helps. But more media, the Rotary has done a wonderful job on the website. It has great media-rich information, but even more media, more videos would be great, just so we can share more about Rotary. And 1 to 2 minute videos is always very helpful. And I guess the other thing too, John, it's great to see you again, by the way. The question that I had is, where do you see eClubs in Rotary in the next 3 to 5 years? Where would you like to see them progress to? Yeah.
Well, just to you again, Glenn, good to see you. And again, I saw you just a great Hawaii party you had at the Pets in San Jose. I think what we're and by the way, thanks for wearing that hat. You're right in. You got the right brand. The new visual identity looks great. So we have now on the website a brand center, which is designed to be one-stop shopping for Rotarians to come and download the templates, the visual, the right fonting, and the right color paletting, etc. With respect to our new visual identity. We were going to be expanding that over the next year and a half, and we're going to be adding a very comprehensive, robust video center. So one-stop shopping to get the various videos, public service announcements, things that you want to show it at a local high school or at a club meeting or an event you're hosting, to make it very easier for you to find, download, and use the videos that you were just talking about. And we're also going to have a very nice one-stop shopping photo, so that we've got sort of the best, not overwhelming people, but just a very nice photo library that you need to download a photo of service project or whatever the topic may be, that those are readily available to you. And then the fourth component, which will be a little further off in the future, but is also to provide a one-stop shopping location where you can download templates and materials on how to organize events that are geared toward a non-Rotary audience. We do a very good job of organizing events for Rotarians, and we need to continue to do that. We also do organize events for non-Rotarians, but I think we need to expand that within the Rotary world and really begin, linking up with local universities and holding a 2-hour, 3-hour symposium on, let's say, water, and have Rotary and the university convene that symposium with experts from around the area or the country coming to speak, and really gearing it to a non-Rotary audience so we can create a greater halo of Rotary as a thought leader, as a cutting-edge innovator in whether it be water or sanitation or maternal child health or whatever it is, or an issue that the local club in the community has become particularly a leader in. So that's a long answer to your first question, but we are going to be putting on the website 3 more centers, one dealing with photos, one dealing with videos, and one dealing with materials on how to organize events for a non-Rotary audience. As to the future of eClubs, I mean, I'd like to see all aspects of Rotary grow. All aspects, traditional clubs, happy hour clubs, clubs that have focus on engagement, less on attendance, and eClubs. eClubs are a very important part of Rotary because, as you guys have all mentioned, technology is here. Younger generations, this is how you guys communicate, and so I'd love to see eClubs bloom, the more the better, and let 1,000 flowers bloom, and see which model works. Let the market tell us, what particular model works, and that's why I would urge you in the eClub movement also to experiment within the eClub parameters. Think out of the box, because I guess for the millennials there is no box, right? How do we bring even more innovation into the eClub experience, and see what the marketplace tells you in terms of what works and what doesn't.
Perfect. I'm going to echo Lane's comment as well. Having good media to share. I mean, doing good in Fiji, doing good in Australia, those videos are gold for getting people to understand who we are and what matters to us.
Right.
And I think when I think about what eClubs can contribute, for me, one of the things is being able to share the stories. I believe that whether a club is an eClub or a traditional meal club, what is important is that there is a focus on telling the stories of the good that you do, which of course also prompts us to make sure that we're doing good in order to be able to tell those stories. And so to whatever extent any club says, here is something we're doing, I know our club wants to share that story. So if a Rotary club in Magnolia, Arkansas says, here's something we did, and they have a 90-second video about it, we'd love to show it in our club to inspire other clubs to want to do the same kinds of things as well. For me, the goal is to be able to share stories in such a way that we're really allowing the world to understand what it means to be part of an organization that feeds off of the energy of people all around the world focused on doing good and doing more than they could individually. By gathering together, we just make such incredible things happen. So I think that's a lot about what eClubs have brought a spotlight to as a part of Rotary.
No, it's great, and I think that two other tools you may want to consider using is Rotary Showcase, which is a platform we've developed on Rotary.org, where any club go and post information about their projects, photos, information on size, scope, and then there's also the Ideas platform, where if you have a great idea, you can post it, or you need volunteer help for one of your projects on a given weekend, you can post it, or you're trying to even find some funding for your just talking
about. All right. So we'll actually get those linked so that others can see them as well. I should wind things down, and I will do so our normal way. And John, I'll hand it over to you for just the last quick comment to everybody. But for all of you who have joined us this week at the eClub of Silicon Valley, it is our goal every week to share stories of innovation, entrepreneurship, and education as they relate to service and the possibilities to do good all around the world. We hope that you've been inspired by what you've heard, not just in the program, but in the little bits and pieces of the meeting all the way through. We ask that you do 2 things. One is to let us know you were here. There's an attendance survey a little bit farther down this page, and we want you to let us know this is who you are and where you're from. And if you're visiting Rotarian, having done that properly, you'll get an email that you can pass along to your secretary as a makeup for a missed meeting somewhere else. And as you well know, you can make up with us 24/7. We are here and always open, sharing cool messages about what Rotary is and can be. Finally, tell us what you thought of the meeting. Tell us what you thought of the program and the different elements of the meeting in our Discuss section, DISQUS. You can log in via an account you create, or via Facebook or Google, or any of your regular accounts will allow you to connect through the Discuss system to leave a comment, and we would love to hear from you. With that, I would like to thank again General Secretary Hewko for taking your time to speak with our group. We have We have a group of people that is very proud to be exploring what technology can be for service, and it's a pleasure to have you join us for sure. As we look ahead to the coming weeks, we will be working every week to make sure that we have that chance to have stories about the kinds of good that people are doing everywhere. Members, as always, you are encouraged to make sure that you are finding those folks that you're in touch with who can tell us about the good that they're doing in the world and that their innovation might be inspirational for others. General Secretary Hewko, I leave the last word to you.
Well, first of all, again, thank you very much, Russell, for having me. Thanks to the eClub of Silicon Valley. Thanks to Lane for joining us from Hawaii and Chris from LA5. Love this event. It's what technology is all about. The cost of doing this was zero, and we were able to reach a terrific broad audience. And so, I'm a huge fan of the eClubs. Give us your feedback and let us know how we can help you take this great idea to even greater heights. So good to be with you, and all the best.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week.